A vast ocean of yellow sand stretches for thousands of miles under a burning sun. It looks completely dead, empty, and silent. But deep beneath this heavy blanket of dust lies a dark world of lost rivers, ancient green forests, and advanced human cities that vanished thousands of years ago. The greatest mysteries of our planet are not hidden in outer space, but right here, buried under the burning sands of the Sahara. Today, we see the Sahara as the largest hot desert on Earth. It is a place where almost nothing can grow, and where the heat can easily kill a human being in a few hours. But this dry wasteland holds a shocking secret. If we could travel back in time by just merely 10,000 years, we would not see any sand dunes here. Instead, we would find a beautiful green paradise filled with deep lakes, rushing rivers, and giant wild animals. Scientists call this period the African humid period, but it is more famously known as the Green Sahara. The change from a green paradise to dry desert didn't happen because of human beings. It happened because of the earth itself. Every 23,000 years, the tilt of the earth changes very slightly as it moves around the sun. This tiny shift changes the way sunlight falls on our planet. Thousands of years ago, this shift caused the yearly rain clouds called monsoons to move much further north than they do today. The rain poured down on the land that is now the Sahara, turning dry desert into a land of life. When the heavy rains come, they created massive river system that covered the entire region. One of these ancient rivers was so large the scientists call it a mega river. It flowed for thousands of miles, carrying fresh water across the continent into the Atlantic Ocean. If this river existed today, it would be one of the largest river systems in the entire world. Deep underneath the sand, the dry beds of these ancient rivers still remain frozen in time. These massive rivers filled giant lakes across the landscape. The largest of these was Lake Megachart. At its biggest, the single lake covered an area larger than all the Great Lakes of North America combined. Today, only a tiny fraction of that lake remains, while the rest has been swallowed by the desert. But beneath the sand, the ghost of this giant lake still leave its mark. The dried up mud from the bottom of the lake Megachat is full of dead microscopic organisms. The strong winds of the Sahara pick up the dust and carry it across the Atlantic Ocean, where it lands in the Amazon rainforest. This desert dust actually feeds the plants in South America, showing us how the dead Sahara still keeps another part of the world alive. As scientists look deeper into the sand using advanced satellite technology, they find that the water didn't completely disappear, it simply went underground. Beneath the hot rocks of the Sahara lies the Nubian Sandstone Aquifer System. Nubian Sandstone Aquifer System. This is the largest accumulation of fossil water in the entire world. It holds more fresh water than all the rivers and lakes on the surface of the earth combined. This water fell as rain thousands of years ago during the Green Sahara period and became trapped deep inside the earth. It is a precious treasure hidden under the deadliest place on earth. This abundant water made the ancient Sahara is perfectly home for wildlife. Deep in the desert, where there is nothing but sand today, scientists have dug up to was bones. Scientists have dug up the bones of ancient elephants, hippos, and giraffes. Even more surprising, they have found fossilized bones of a giant crocodiles and ancient whales. These discoveries prove that the Sahara was once a place of deep waters and thick forest. The animals thrived here for thousands of years, but they were not alone. Humans also discovered this green paradise for a long time. Historians believe that ancient humans only lived along the Nile River in Egypt, but new discoveries show that thousands of people lived deep inside the Sahara long before the pharaohs built the pyramids. These ancient people left behind clues about their lives in a very surprising way. In the middle of the desert, there were large rock formations covered in thousands of ancient paintings and carvings. The most famous place for this ancient art is a mountain range called Tessel Angier. Tessel Angier, I don't know the uh, specific spelling of this Tessel Angier. Okay, here protected inside shallow caves are beautiful paintings created by humans who lived up to 12,000 years ago. The pictures do not show a desert, they show people swimming in deep water, dancing in large groups, and herding cattle through green fields. They are detailed drawings of lions, rhinos, and antelopes. These rocks act like a giant photo album from a world that no longer exists. They show us that the Sahara was once the true heart of human culture in Africa. Among these rock paintings, scientists found something very mysterious. Some drawings show strange figures with round heads, large eyes, and bodies that look like they are wearing modern spacesuits. For decades, people wondered if these drawings were proof of ancient visitors from other worlds. However, scientists believe this figure represent ancient gods or shamans wearing traditional masks for religious ceremonies. Even without aliens, these paintings prove that the people of the Sahara had a complex culture, deep spiritual beliefs, and a rich understanding of the world around them. As the centuries passed, the people of the Sahara grow even more advanced. In the southwestern corner of Egypt, in a dry basin called Naphtha archaeologists made an incredible discovery. They found a circle of large stones standing upright in the sand. At first, it looked like a simple pile of rocks. They found a circle of large stones standing upright in the sand. At first, it looked like a simple pile of rocks. But when scientists measured the position of the stones, they realized it was a highly accurate astronomical calendar. The stones at Naphtha were placed there more than 7,000 years ago, making this site thousands of years older than the famous Stonehenge in England. The ancient people designed the stone circle to align perfectly with the stars and the summer solstice. The stone circle told the people exactly when the summer rains would arrive. It shows that the ancient inhabitants of the Sahara were not primitive wanderers. They were skilled observers of the sky, using science and mathematics to survive. But the green paradise could not last forever. Around 5,000 years ago, the tilt of the earth shifted once again. The monsoon rains began to move south, away from the Sahara. Year after year, the rains became less frequent. The great rivers slowed to a trickle, and the massive lakes began to shrink. The green grass turned brown, and the forest died. The sand, which had been kept away by the thick plants and wet soil, began to wake up and move across the land. This sudden change in the climate created a terrible crisis for the millions of people and animals living in the Sahara. As the water dried up, they had to make a choice. They could stay and die, or they could move in a search of water. Most of the animals moved south toward the center of Africa, where the rain still fell. But the human population moved in different direction. Many traveled east toward the only reliable source of water left in the region, the Nile River. Historians now believe that the drying of the Sahara was the true spark that created the great civilization of ancient Egypt. Before the desert formed, people lived scattered across the green plains. But as the sand swallowed their homes, thousands of different groups were forced to crowd it together along the narrow banks of the Nile. To survive in this crowded space, they had to learn how to walk together, build large irrigation systems, and create a centralized government. The dry sands of the Sahara pushed humans to create one of the greatest empires in human history. While many moved to the Nile, others stayed behind the drying desert, adapting to the harsh new world in incredible ways. Deep in the sands of Niger, sorry for that, archaeologists discovered a unique cemetery called Gobero. Gobero. This site contains the bones of two different groups of people who live in the same area at different times. The first group was tall and hunted large fish in the deep lakes. The second group, who arrived much later when the lakes were shrinking, was shorter and relied on herding cattle. The bone shows that as the environment became harsher, humans physically changed and adapted their lifestyle to stay alive. The people who stayed in the desert eventually became the masters of the sand. One of the most successful groups was the Garamantis Empire. Garamantis Empire, which appeared around the 3000 years ago in modern day Libya. For a long time, history books ignored them, thinking no large civilization could exist in the middle of a hot desert. But modern satellite images have revealed the ruins of their massive stone cities, castles, and fortresses buried beneath the dunes. The Grammars didn't have a river like the Nile, so they had to find another way to get water. They did this by building an incredibly complex network of underground tunnels called forests. They dug deep into the hillsides to tap into the hidden underground water supply, channeling it down to their towns and fields. This underground network stretched for thousands of miles. With this hidden water, they grew grapes, wheat, and dates right in the middle of the desert. They became wealthy by controlling the trade routes across the sand, proving that human intelligence could conquer the harshest environment on earth. Eventually, even the clever Brahmins could not fight the desert forever. After centuries of farming, their underground water level dropped too low, and their tunnel ran dry. Without water, their great cities were abandoned and slowly swallowed by the moving sand dunes. Today, their empty stone castles stand as silent warnings about the limit of human survival. The saint of the Sahara is not just at hiding ancient cities, it is also a perfect preserver of history. Because the desert is a completely dry and hot, bacteria cannot grow easily. This means that anything buried in the sand doesn't rot. It stays exactly the same for thousands of years. The Sahara acts like a giant natural time capsule, waiting for someone to open it. In the early 20th century, explorers found proof of this preservation in the most dramatic way possible. Deep in the Egyptian desert, they discovered the remains of lost armies and ancient travelers who had been caught in sudden sandstorms. The hot, dry sand had dried out their bodies naturally, keeping their clothes, hair, and skin perfectly intact for centuries. These natural mummies tell tragic stories of people who underestimate the power of the desert. The Sahara also holds mysterious mysteries. The Sahara also holds mysteries from much more recent history. During World War II, the vast desert became a massive battlefield where armies fought for control of North Africa. Pilots flew their airplanes over thousands of miles of empty sand, and many went missing. For decades, their family never knew what happened to them. Then in the year 2012, an oil walker exploring a remote part of the Egyptian desert spotted something strange sticking out of the sand. It was a British fighter plane that had crashed in 1942. The plane was perfectly preserved. The glass in the cockpit was unbroken. The metal body was not rusted, and the pilot's paper maps were still sitting on the dashboard, readable after 70 years. The desert had kept the plane exactly as it was on the day it fell from the sky, solving a 72 years old mystery in an instant. But there are objects hidden in the Sahara that are far older than any human machine. Scattered across the remote desert plains are millions of black stones look like they were burned by fire. They are meteorites, rocks that fell to Earth from outer space. In most parts of the world, meteorites are very hard to find because plants grow over them or rain washes them away. But in the Sahara, the dark space rocks stand out clearly against the yellow sand. By studying these stones, scientists can learn about the birth of our solar system and the secrets of distant planets. Some of these space rocks caused incredible changes when they hit the desert. Millions and millions of years ago, a massive meteorite crash in the western part of the Sahara. The heat from the explosion was so intense that it instantly melted the desert sand, turning into liquid glass. When the glass cooled, it formed beautiful yellow green gemstone. known as Libyan desert glass. This glass is so rare and unique that ancient humans traveled deep into the desert just to find it. King Tutankhamun, the famous Egyptian pharaoh, were beautiful scrap metal carved from this exact space, glass over his chest inside his tomb. The desert also hides massive geological structure that look like they belong on another planet. The most famous this is the Richat structure, also known as the Eye of the Sahara, located in Mauritania. That is giant circular rock feature that measures nearly 30 miles across from the ground. It looks like a series of low hills, but from space it looks like a giant blue eye looking up at the stars. For a long time, scientists didn't know how this giant eye was formed. Some people believed it was the crater of a massive asteroid impact. Others noticed that its size and shape matched the descriptions of the lost city of Atlantis, written by the ancient Greek philosopher Plato. Today, geologists have studied the rocks carefully and discovered the true story. The Eye of the Sahara was created millions of years ago when hot magma over there's when hot magma from deep inside the earth pushed upward, lifting the layers of rock like a giant bubble. Over millions of years, wind and rain eroded the top of the bubble, leaving behind the circular ring of rocks we see today. While science can explain the eye of the Sahara, the desert still holds many secrets that leave experts completely confused. One of the greatest mysteries in the present of giant stone structures shaped like the letters 5 I and W, VI and W, which can only be seen clearly from airplanes or satellites. The structures are made of low stone walls that stretch over miles across the empty desert. Archaeologists call this structure desert kites. For a long time, no one knew who built them or why. Recently, researchers discovered that these walls were built by ancient hunters thousands of years ago. The hunters would drive large herds of wild animals into the wide opening of the walls and force them down into the narrow point where they could easily trap and hunt them. This walls show that ancient humans had incredible ability to modify the landscape to suit their needs long before the modern tools were invented. As we look at the Sahara today, we see that it is not standing still. The desert is alive, moving and growing every single year. Strong winds push the giant sand dunes forward by several feet every month. This process is called desertification. As the climate changes and humans cut down trees at the edges of the desert, the sand is soiling more grassland, forcing modern villages to pack up and move away, just like their ancestors did thousands of years ago. To fight this growing threat, several African nations have joined together to build one of the most ambitious environmental projects in human history. It is called the Great Green Wall. The plan is to plant a massive wall of trees and plants stretching all the way across the continent of Africa, from the Atlantic Ocean to the Red Sea. This wall of green is designed to stop the sand from moving forward and to bring life back to the edges of the desert. If it succeeds, it could slow down the growth of the Sahara and save millions of lives. The Sahara Desert teaches us an important lesson about our planet. It reminds us that the earth is constantly changing. The place that is now a burning wasteland was once a green paradise, and the places where we live today could become deserts in the future. The secrets hidden beneath the sand show us how fragile human civilization really are and how closely our survival is tied to the climate of our planet. Every year, new technology allows us to look deeper beneath the sand without lifting a single shovel. Satellites can see through the dust, and ground penetrating radar can map the ancient rivers that still wait in the dark. As the wind continues to sift the dunes, more secrets will inevitably be uncovered. The Sahara is a vast library of human and planetary history, and we have only just read the first few pages. What lies deeper down in the silent dark beneath the sand remains one of the ultimate mysteries of our world. So there are my today's video. I hope you are enjoying this video, and I figured out that many of my viewers not watching till the the stop. So I very uncomfortable in English. I study English, but when I speak is like a jambling about. So please ignore my English. Okay, then bye bye guys.